They had told us to never play near the mine shaft. It was only a half mile from my friend's house, a distant hill of gray dirt piled in the middle of the surrounding fields, a place where the miners had been trapped for days, starving and dying of thirst in the darkness. However, out here, on what used to be miles of endless prairie, it looked like a mountain, a place of adventure where bushes and trees had grown up from the years of collected coal slag. We spent months of one summer looking for the sealed entrance and never found it. We would sneak out at night with our flashlights and camp on the side of our pretend wilderness and roast hot dogs on our small campfire. No matter how many times we were caught, and no matter how many times we got in trouble, we always came back to the mound. In essence, it was a burial mound. The thought of the unclaimed bodies of 12 miners lying somewhere below us thrilled our pre-adolescent hearts. It didn't matter whether we were knights or fur trappers or soldiers fighting Nazis. There were always ghosts involved when we played our games. Sadly, eventually all boys must grow up and become husbands, bosses, workers, and whatever harsh things life can transform a clean young boy into. However, I never forgot about that mountain where so many dreams had been acted out. When our friend who had lived on the farm by the mine died, we all came back for the funeral. An early heart attack had ended his life, and we returned to give our condolences and to remember the boy we had known. It occurred to us, as we sat in the local bar drinking beer and doing shots, that there was no better place to remember our fallen comrade but at the mouth of the lost mine. One pickup truck loaded with drunk, middle-aged men flew swerving and fishtailing down a country road until we saw it. It loomed in the darkness like a distant monolith, and climbed the fence we made our way across the field. There on top of that low pile of dust and rock we built a fire of dead wood, which burned an inferno as we joked and told stories, wishing that our lost friend was there. Years had eroded away much of the hill, and as we stumbled about in the darkness, it was I who first saw the hole. It was a dark, empty mouth which beckoned into a cavern of darkness, which ranged down into an abyss of blackness below. I could see rotten gray timber jutting from the dirt around it, and knew that this was the remnants of the ancient mule-pulled coal elevator, which had lowered those 12 workers into their earthen tomb that fateful day long ago. We gathered around it and stared in wonder and awe that after all this time we had found it. "You could have fallen right in," one of the men, who had once been a boy, slurred with nervous incongruity as if he had just found himself in a dream. "I could have, but I didn't," I replied with certain trepidation as I saw the rubble cascading down into the shadows beneath. "We used to think that there were ghosts still down there," another one of my old friends laughed. "What a shitty afterlife," the other responded. "All those Sundays in church, and we still thought a man could die and be trapped in a hole. Our moms would be so proud. Can you imagine dying and then realizing that you were stuck in the place where it happened?" I said as I pondered the nightmare which had been evoked. I realized that the fantasy of children had become the dread of grown men. A child who felt immortal would never contemplate the horror of actually dying and being trapped as a spirit in the darkness. "I would have been so pissed," my old friend said. "Can you imagine if you had been trapped down there all that time, and then suddenly the door was open? You could get out? How mad would you be?" "You'd be insane by then, man. You wouldn't be anything but rage and vengeance," the other said as he lit a cigarette. "Yeah, and what if you had known that there were kids running around over you for all those years?" I was imagining these things as we spoke them. "I'd go looking for them," my buddy jibed, blowing smoke from his nose. "What do you think the ghosts of dead miners would look like?" I said as I pictured pale, starved, ragged forms clawing their way up the long ascent to the opening. "Like hell with a little shit mixed in?" my friend laughed. "When we were kids, we were going to fight them off with prayers and a crucifix," I added as I pictured the first fish belly white hand reaching into the moonlight. "What would you do now?" he asked as he straightened up and began slowly backing away from the hole. Run like the wind and pray that I was faster than the dead? Now we were laughing as we made our way back to the bonfire. It's a shame that he couldn't have been here with us to find it after all this time. Well, he died out in his barn. If our previous theory is correct, he might be here with us. I was momentarily stunned by the insight of the man I remembered as being a boy. Well, if he was here, what do you think he would say? I asked as I poked the embers of the flame. You guys better run before the miners get you, he replied. But we did not last. A cool breeze blew through the crooked, reaching limbs of the trees as I stared back into the darkness where I knew the mine shaft lay. I could see the miners now reaching up and grabbing the half-buried board and pulling himself from the pit. What if that's what got him? I said this almost without thought. The words had left my lips as if of their own accord. What if the rain last summer washed the entrance to the mine open, and that's what let the ghosts of the miners out? So they went looking for us, because they remembered us, and he was the only one who was nearby. But now they know that we've all returned, and they're here, watching us with all that hatred. What would you think they would do to us? They'd want us to suffer like they did, so that we could understand what they went through, so that we would see that dying isn't a joke. We stood in silence as we contemplated this horror. I could now see the dim shapes of 12 vague forms standing around us in the darkness, as if they were really there. What could you say to make them understand that we were just kids? And we didn't understand, I said as the figures moved closer. I don't think they would care to listen. The man who I had called my friend said, as if he could see them too, coming closer, reaching for us with decayed, clawed fingers from which the flesh had long receded. I realized that we were playing the game, the same game we had played as children, but as men, the game had grown cruel and subtle to the players. They were close now in the darkness as the light of the fire was dying between us. So how would all that end? I heard the other of my friends laugh from the darkness, in which I could now barely see them. They would grab us and take us into the mine, I answered as the last flame seemed to flicker away in the breeze, and I heard the scream